Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the really complex and, let's be honest, often controversial world of public health ethics. This is where the incredibly tough decisions about our collective well-being get made.
So let's start with this question. On the surface, it seems pretty simple, right? But the answer actually cracks open this fundamental split between two very, very different kinds of medical ethics. And that's exactly what we're going to explore today.
You know, to really wrap our heads around public health ethics, we first have to see how different it is from the kind of ethics your own doctor uses. And believe me, they are not the same thing at all.
And here is it, the absolute core difference. Clinical ethics, what happens in your doctor's office, that's all about the one-on-one. The focus is entirely 100% on what is best for you, the individual patient. But public health ethics, that zooms way, way out. It's looking at the health of an entire community, a whole city, or even a country.
So when you have this massive shift in focus, from just one person to millions, it makes sense that you'd get a totally different set of guiding principles. And this is exactly where that classic and sometimes fierce tension shows up. The rights of the individual versus the needs of the community.
Just look at how the core values shift here. When you're with your doctor, your autonomy, your right to make your own choices is king. But in public health, the focus flips to interdependence. The simple, unavoidable fact that your choices affect everybody else's health. It moves from what's best for one person to what the scientific evidence says is best for the entire community.
And this is where it gets real. Think about the Ebola outbreak. To protect the whole community, officials had to think about isolating people who were infected. So how do you possibly balance that urgent, life-saving need with the absolute ethical duty to respect a person's rights and their dignity? That right there, that's the central challenge of public health. Okay, so how in the world do public health officials navigate these incredibly tough calls? Well, they don't just guess. There's actually a formal code of ethics designed to guide them through it.
This code, put together back in 2002, was a huge deal. It was really a landmark moment because it created the very first formal rulebook to try and make sure public health actions are fair, just, and respectful to everyone involved.
And this entire code, this whole framework, is built on a foundation of 12 core principles. Each one is a guidepost for making these complex ethical choices.
Now, we're not going to list all 12, but what's really important to get is that these principles force officials to look beyond just the immediate crisis. They have to think about the root causes of health problems, they have to get input from the community, and they have to work to protect the most vulnerable people among us, all while trying to respect individual rights.
So, all those principles, they get boiled down into 4 key tests. Think of them as hurdles that any big public health action has to clear before we can even begin to call it ethical. The very first hurdle is the harm principle. And this is a really high bar. It asks a pretty simple but powerful question. Is this action absolutely necessary to stop people from causing significant harm to other people?
And this classic quote from the philosopher John Stuart Mill just nails it. You can't restrict someone's freedom just because you think it's for their own good. No way. The reason has to be about protecting others from harm, period.
All right, the second test is transparency. This is huge. These critical, life-altering decisions simply can't be made behind closed doors. The whole process has to be open, clear, and totally accountable to the public.
This means that health authorities have a duty to explain the why. They have to share the evidence they're using, lay out their reasoning. Because that's how you build public trust and get people to cooperate willingly, which is always, always the goal.
Test number 3 is reciprocity, and this is such a powerful idea. It's really all about basic fairness. It's about a two-way street.
So here's the bottom line on this one. If society asks you to make a sacrifice, say staying home from work to stop a disease from spreading, then society has an obligation to help you handle that burden. That could mean financial support, help with groceries, you name it. It is just not fair to ask for a sacrifice without offering support in return.
And finally, we get to the fourth test, the principle of using the least restrictive or the least coercive means possible to get the job done.
This is all about proportionality. You don't bring out a sledgehammer when a gentle nudge will do the trick, right? The ethical path is to always start with education, with discussion, with voluntary measures. And only if those options have been tried and have failed, only then should you even start to consider more restrictive things like mandates or fines.
So, after going through all that, why does any of this ethical stuff actually matter to you in your day-to-day life?
It matters because these are not just abstract ideas in a textbook. This is the toolkit for accountability. This framework is what ensures that the policies affecting your job, your family, your freedom, all of it, are made with a real commitment to fairness, to science, and to respecting both the community and you as an individual.
Honestly, understanding these principles, the harm principle, transparency, reciprocity, and the least restrictive means, it empowers you. It gives you the tools to ask smarter questions, to see through the noise, and to hold our leaders accountable to the highest possible ethical standard. Because at the end of the day, it's not just their job to protect public health, it's our job to make sure they do it right.